I just kind of feel like at this point, Love and Hip Hop is like a cesspool for colorism. But in reality, it's really like reality TV in general. Whether it's Baddies, whether it's Real House of Potomac, whether it's Real Housewives of Atlanta, Basketball Wives. A lot of these shows have an undertone of colorism. Welcome back, everyone. This is GRIOT of the Diaspora, and I am your host, Nakaira G. And this episode is going to be about Amara La Negra and Love and Hip Hop, the platform. I don't know how many times she's going to go through this colorism issue, but let's talk about it. Real quick, y'all, make sure you download my new ebook. It is a travel planner and journal. I made this about a year and a half ago, and it's really, really cool. There are 10 different entries, so as you are on your travel journeys, make sure you download this ebook. It's only $10, and you can get it on my website today at nakedgoldonline.com. You can download it, you can print it, whatever works for you. Make sure you cop that today. Okay, so a recent episode of Love and Hip Hop Miami recently aired. And there's a cast member named Flo, and she is Haitian. And so, if you don't know, Miami has a lot of different ethnicities and backgrounds, especially in the Caribbean identity. So, you have a lot of Haitians, you have a lot of Cubans, you have a lot of Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Venezuelans, all type of people, right? And so I'm not going to really get into the drama that probably always goes on Love and Hip Hop, but this particular episode I think is really interesting because Amara La Negra has gone through like multiple colorism situations on this show. And it was just last year where Erica Mena got kicked off of Love and Hip Hop because of her comment about Spice, calling Spice a blue monkey. And so now we have this new altercation, but I'm noticing that Amara always gets called something. Season 1, she was chastised because her afro, and when people found out that the afro was a wig, they did all of this talking about her, but there was no denying that she was still a black woman, regardless of her accent, regardless of where she was born and things like that. It is still very clear that she is African descent. And there was this whole conversation with her and other castmates who felt like they were Afro-Latino instead of just Latino. The girl that says she was absolutely black, that situation, and she like absolutely was just not. But I'm just noticing like Love and Hip Hop, particularly the Miami one, it's always something. It's always something. As if the colorism of just the show isn't enough. Amara La Negra's baby daddy last season called her a black bitch, right? And it barely even got headlines. It barely was even in the blogs. But when Erica Mena called Spice a blue monkey, that went like wildfire to the point where they had to have a colorism expert come in and do a special episode to talk to the cast members minus Erica Mena about the incident. Is there a standard at this show or not? As much as I think that people should have the ability to embarrass themselves and say things that are inappropriate, because I don't want to live in this world where everything is like overly censored. But I do think that a part of some of this reality TV content should be about actual real life conversations. Because it's one thing for them to show, like for instance with Amara La Negra, it's one thing for the network to show her baby daddy calling her a black bitch. But then there was no interrogation on set. There was no conversation after that. Amara might have spoke about it with some of her castmates, but it wasn't like a real thing, is my point. It wasn't something that it seemed like he needed to be accountable for. Whether he apologized on the show or not, he wasn't really held accountable. And I just think it's really interesting because after what happened to Erica Mena, you would think that the cast would be a little bit more cognizant of what they're saying. So now you have this situation here again in the most recent season of Love and Hip Hop Miami, where Flo, a Haitian woman, calls Amara a black bitch. Not Mama D coming in. But like, what is crazy to me is that Flo, who is Haitian, who speaks Creole, she is not even really alleged. I mean, you can go to her website and all those things. She sells skin lightening cream. And so the whole fight between her and Amara is whatever beef they have going on. And then Amara throws out, how you going to be at an event with a bunch of black, beautiful women and you sell skin lightening cream? Which, because, I mean, yeah. And this is my thing. It's okay to be held accountable for certain things, especially when you are in these type of panel events, when you are in these type of spaces where you are trying to inspire and motivate people. It is necessary to address certain things. How are you in a room full of black women and one, you're calling me a black bitch, but you're also selling skin lightening cream, and even in your captions, in your marketing campaigns, you're saying for my dark skinned customers. So it's really crazy because a lot of it goes unsaid, but it's always noticed. It's either noticed in the casting, it's either noticed on who gets the biggest storyline, it's on. There's so many different hidden ways that colorism plays out in these reality TV shows, especially reality TV shows that focus on black women, right? I think that at this point, producers think that colorism is funny. There's no way that they don't. At this point, colorism is like the main character of the shows. When you look at the marketing campaigns, who gets more camera time, who gets a slap on the wrist when things happen, who gets called out and held accountable for simple jokes, who gets to go on tour to do the press release, who's considered the favorites on the show, who has to deal with, it's just, at this point, it just feels like colorism deserves a seat at the reunion. Because I know that as a black woman, conversations of colorism come up a lot, especially when you are in a group of black women and you are in almost any room, any space, any time. But especially when you are in these materialistic type of spaces, if you are in these very elite and superficial, type of environments, whether it's events, TV sets, what have you, there is going to be this conversation, or at least a thought, of colorism. But I'm really trying to understand, like, is it that the cast members are already colorists or already feel some type of way about skin complexion? Is that just something that, because they're dealing with a lot of communities like Haitians and Puerto Ricans and Africans who do indulge in a lot of skin bleaching products, is it that you have that type of community, and so these type of conversations about colorism are going to occur? It's hard to really say, because when you look at Potomac has a mixed girl fetish. Love and Hip Hop has a Latina girl fetish. And I feel like, because of the backlash that Love and Hip Hop got from the Amara La Negra first season situation, where she had to go on a whole campaign of teaching the world of what an Afro-Latina was, I feel like ever since then, they've been blackening the cast. But what I notice is, with Love and Hip Hop Miami, you either have the people that are like Trick Daddy, Trina, Ray J, Princess, and then you have the Caribbean people. And I'm just noticing how, even with the Caribbean people, they're kind of, they have a completely different storyline, but now they're forcing everybody to have the same storyline. But somehow, these comments about shade, complexion, skin bleaching, it's so crazy. I really just think it's so crazy. So now you have this clip going around. And if I was Amara La Negra, I would honestly be calling out VH1 Network. Because at this point, she has been the laughing stock and the, like, easy joke for these people, these castmates, to come in and call her a black bitch. Like, is that just the thing now? Is that just the brand now, to just call Amara? Like, I really don't understand. I really don't get it. And I don't get how they did all of that for Erica Mena, but when it happens on this other show, it just seems like it seems to be intentional at this point. Like, it seems to be a part of the conversation. I don't know. I mean, if Amara's gonna stay on that show, then that's just kind of on her at this point, because I can't really. I can always empathize with Amara because she's in the situation, but at the same time, it's like you don't know how much of this is even scripted. And that's my other thing. A part of it feels scripted. And if it is scripted, that means that the producers do think that this shit is funny. They do think it's funny. They do think colorism is a storyline. They do think that that's funny. If so much of Love and Hip Hop is scripted or overly produced, at this point, the producers think it's funny. So I'm really curious what the next episode is going to be and how that's going to blow over, because they only showed the beginning of that argument. So I'm really curious to see how next week's episode is going to be, because I don't talk about Love and Hip Hop unless something goes on that's like relevant to what I want to talk about. But I'm gonna save it for next week's episode to see what the headlines really look like and how people respond to this other colorist statement that has now happened in reality TV. So, till next time.